Hi everyone, today's video is just going to be on preparing the statement of cash flows. I've created this statement of cash flows worksheet, and this makes the statement of cash flows really easy to prepare. Sometimes it's one of the more difficult ones to prepare because there's a lot of negatives and positives involved, and it can get kind of complicated. So this kind of simplifies everything for your preparation of the statement of cash flows. So what I did here is I have the statement of cash flows worksheet, and I created an example balance sheet and an example income statement so that we can use to demonstrate how to use the statement of cash flows worksheet. And the statement of cash flows worksheet is available at accountingexcel.com, and there's a link in the description where you can download the worksheet. So let's go ahead and get started here. So the first thing you'll see, I just want to go over the setup. So to the left here, you kind of have the different things that a statement of cash flows kind of incorporates. And then here you'll see that there's the prior year balance sheet, 2018, and current year balance sheet, 2019. And then across the top here, there are the columns are set up with assets and liabilities, and then your equity. And so at the end, there's a check that I put in to make sure that it balances to zero. So at the end, after we enter everything, this should come back to zero. So in order to use this, the first thing we want to do is go ahead and populate our balance sheet from 2018 and then 2019. So to do that, I'm going to use this balance sheet example here. And so you can see I got assets, all my assets here, total assets, and then my liabilities coming down here, and then my equity. And then you can see it's balanced 44 million 324, 44 million 324. And then that's 2019's. This is 2018's. So we're going to go ahead and populate this. And just real quick, on the income statement, two numbers that we really want to keep in mind are the amortization expense and the depreciation expense, because those are going to kind of show separately on the statement of cash flows. So I'm going to go ahead and populate these with the 2018 numbers. So I'm just going to go right down the list on the balance sheet. So starting with 2018. And I'm just using the tab button to tab over. Okay, and that's my total assets there. So you can see where I put everything in there. The 39,233,000 all the way down to the 28,258 all the way down to the 29,299, and that's what I've populated here. Okay, so that's my assets, and then I'm going to come to the liabilities section. And this can be manipulated any way you want. You know, you can delete columns and things like that, but I just put things in there so that there would be enough for most people. So we come to the liabilities. I'm just going to start putting those in. And the liabilities you want to put in as negatives. Okay, and that should be all my liabilities there. So it goes from the 2,993 all the way down to the 2.5 million. And then the next section is going to be my equity section. So come over to the equity. Equity is also going to go in as a negative number. left a spot there for retained earnings. Okay, and so you can see here that our check is off by 45,000. So that means that we missed something. So when I go back and look at it, I'm off 45,000. So I probably either had a typing error or I missed this other current liabilities account. So we just go in there and add that. And I'll go ahead and put it here. Okay, so now we're at 0. Then we're going to do the same thing for 2019. Okay, so we're all zeroed out. And then just so we don't get confused, what we want to do is go in and put these account titles up here. So I'll go ahead and do that. This account titles I'm getting from right here along the side of the balance sheet. Okay. All right, so we have all of our balance sheets, accounts entered. We have all of our assets and liabilities and equity entered in. So now what we have to do is just start preparing the statement of cash flows. So the first number that I always plug in there is the net income. Where that's going to come from is the income statement. At the very bottom, your net income for the current year is $5,966,000. So you'll notice that this column B has formulas in here. So the way to do that is you come over to where your retained earnings is, because that's where it's going to have an effect, is on retained earnings. And you just add in 5,966, which is your net income number from here. And then you can see that it populates over here. And this is what would show up, only this part would show up on your statement of cash flows. Okay, next down the list is depreciation. And then where depreciation comes from is your depreciation expense on your income statement. So go ahead and put that in there, 196,000. And the column that you want to put that in, because depreciation has an impact on fixed assets or property, plant, and equipment. So you want to put it in that column, and I'll show you why that's important here in a second. Okay, and you can see that that populates over there. The next is amortization expense. So our amortization expense is $220,000. And I put that in the wrong spot. So your amortization typically is going to have an effect on intangible assets. So we want to put it in that column, 220,000. And then just real quick, let me show you how you can tell if you've accounted for everything correctly. So at the bottom down here, I have a check in this row 64. Once you have everything in there correctly, this will populate to 0. There's a formula down here that makes this come to 0. So at the end of this, everything in this row should be 0. So now we have our depreciation and our amortization, and sometimes there's some other non-cash expenses that can go in this area here. But typically you're going to come down to cash flows from a change in different balance sheet accounts, and these are all operating changes. So first one, we'll just start with accounts receivable. Let's say change in accounts receivable. And then if your number here is a positive, you want to zero this out, because right now down here you have a positive, so you'll enter in a negative on your statement of cash flows, so minus. And then that populates here. And then you just go to the next one, unbilled revenue. Prepaid expenses. Other current assets. Okay, now this one's kind of tricky, property, plant, and equipment. Property, plant, and equipment typically goes in the investing section. So if you purchase property, plant, and equipment, this is going to be a negative. So we have $24,000 change. $196,000 of it is for, we know we need to add back to income for depreciation. So a quick way to do it is to just look down here at the bottom and see what the change is. But it's not always that easy. Sometimes you have to look at your actual detail in your ledger to figure out this number. But we're going to assume that we just purchased $220,000 of property, plant, and equipment for this exercise. Okay, your intangible assets, everything's been taken care of with your amortization expense. And then deferred tax asset, so go ahead and add that in. $94,000. Okay, so now we have made it through all the assets. We can go ahead and go through the liabilities. So change in accounts payable. Change in accrued expenses. Deferred revenue. Deferred rent. Okay, so those are kind of your operating liabilities. The other one here is the other current liabilities that we kind of did out of line. We'll go ahead and add that one in. Okay, now these ones here, notes payable, line of credit, and long-term notes payable, those are typically going to be changes in financing activities. So we'll go ahead and add those in. So in the line of credit we drew down on the line of credit from 100,000 to 2 million. So we're going to say draw down. Okay. It looks like we paid back some of the notes payable because we have less of a balance outstanding. So we're going to say repayment of short-term note payable. Okay. And then looks like we paid down some of our long-term note payable. So we'll say repayment of long-term note payable. Okay, now those are taken care of. Then we come to the equity section. Our retained earnings is already taken care of here, so we just have Series A, Series B, and Series A common. So those are also going to be in the financing section. So we'll say issuance of Series A preferred, issuance of Series B preferred, and issuance of Series A common. Okay. And we'll just go ahead and put those amounts in here. Okay, so the statement of cash flow is done. And then if you want to, you can kind of clean this up, hide some columns, just so you don't have zeros, make it look a little better. Okay, and then we have just what we need. Hide some of these. Hide some of these. Whatever you don't need, you can hide. You can add as you need. Okay, so you can see at the very bottom here we have beginning cash 28,258, which matches our last year's cash balance on the balance sheet. 28,258, and we have this year's cash 39,233 on the balance sheet. 39,233, and our net increase in cash is 10,975,000. So we're just adding that to the 28 to get to the 39. It matches the ending, and there's this check down here just to make sure. So this check zeroes out once it's right. So you can see here, the only difference that I have is in row 64, and that's all cash, and these are all zeroed out. And that is how it works. So if you guys think this is helpful, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any questions, you have any kind of accounting questions or anything like that you'd like to see a video on, or any tools that you think might be helpful. And then, like I said, the link to the spreadsheet is in the description, so you can find that down there, or you can just go to accountingexcel.com and click on the store, and you can find this spreadsheet, and there's some other useful tools in there. All right, so hopefully this was helpful for you guys, and see you all next time.